So continuing with dihalogen derivatives, let's see what the second type is. The second type of these dihalogen derivatives, they are known as alkylene dihalides. The class of compounds alkylene dihalides. Again, ये जो alkylene dihalides है, it is the name in the common system. Their IUPAC names are very easy to remember. Dihaloalkenes, right? Dihaloalkane होगा, mostly alkane ही होता है. You just have to give the locant, right? वो कहाँ पर है. But in this category, as I told you earlier, dihalogen derivatives में, it is very, very important to remember the common names. Now, what is an alkylene dihalide? It is the class of compounds when these two X atoms, two halogen atoms, are present on two adjacent carbon atoms. You have a parent hydrocarbon from which you have derived this class of compounds, and you have derived in a way that you have replaced two hydrogen atoms of two adjacent carbon atoms by two halogen atoms. And if the position is that the two halogen atoms are present on two adjacent carbon atoms, it is an alkylene dihalide. This kind of a position, when the substituents are present on two adjacent carbon atoms, it is known as the vicinal position. The position is known as the vicinal position. Because of this, these alkylene dihalides are also known as Wick dihalides. You must have, again, like gem dihalides, heard about Wick dihalides. Now you know what a Wick dihalide is. Dihalides in which these two, because it's a dihalide, there are two halogen atoms, but these two halogen atoms are present on two adjacent carbon atoms. Let's see the examples. For example, we have a compound like CH2Cl, the simplest possible example. It's a derivative of ethane. One hydrogen from this carbon has been replaced by chlorine atom, one hydrogen from this. If we speak of the IUPAC name, it is very simple. 1,2-dichloroethane, right? But what is important here is the common name. What is the common name? It's an alkylene dihalide. Therefore, it is a ethylene dichloride. You should be able to write down this name. It's an ethylene dichloride. To know that it's a dichloride is not enough. You should be able to write down this ethylene dichloride. They are on adjacent carbon atoms. We'll write down another example. CH3CHCl, CH2Cl. The hydrocarbon is propane. Parent hydrocarbon is propane. But we have derived a dihalide in a way that we have replaced hydrogen atoms of adjacent carbon atoms by two chlorine atoms, so that the position is the Wick position. This is a Wick dihalide when the two halogen atoms are present on two adjacent carbon atoms. Again, if you talk about the IUPAC name, very simple, 1,2-dichloropropane. However, what is the common name, which is an important name here? Propylene dichloride. Right? Again, I'm writing important here because you should be able to write down this name. Done? Now we are doing the nomenclature of dihalogen derivatives, and our third type in those dihalogen derivatives would be Methylene dihalides. Again, dihalides in which there are two halogen atoms. But why is it a polymethylene? Let's see. Polymethylene name किन के लिए use किया जाता है? When these two halogen atoms, which two halogen atoms? Because it is a dihalide, there are two halogen atoms. When these two halogen atoms are present on टर्मिनल कार्बन एटम्स, कितना भी लंबा चेन आपका हो, उसके जो टर्मिनल एंड के कार्बन एटम्स होंगे, one is present on this end, another is present on this end, then you call it a polymethylene dihalide. For example, very simply I'll write down the example: CH2, 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 Br, Br. Right? This was 1, 2, 3, 4. This was a molecule of butane. The parent hydrocarbon here is butane, in which we have replaced one hydrogen here by bromine atom, one hydrogen here, so that in this molecule the two halogen atoms are present on terminal carbon atoms. Therefore, what is the name? Very good. Poly के लिए poly is sorry, I am asking as if I am teaching in the Zoom classes, right? So I have to actually give you that information. What is the name? Poly stands for tri, tetra, etc. कितने methylene groups होंगे? Polymethylene. How many methylene groups are there? 1, 2, 3 and 4. This compound is tetramethylene dibromide. Again, pay attention to the nomenclature. Polymethylene, when the two halogen atoms are on terminal carbon atoms. Poly, you will decide how many methylene groups are there. In this compound, there are 4. That is why the name is written as tetramethylene dibromide. However, you should be able to differentiate between this. जो मैंने पीछे आपकी example दे दी, this. This is not a polymethylene dihalide. This remains a weak dihalide. Right? This is considered in the class in which the two halogen atoms are present on two adjacent carbon atoms. So आपका जो ये poly है, it starts with tri. Tri के below, di will be a weak dihalide. It still falls in the category, in the previous category, alkylene dihalides, जिनकी definition है when the two halogen atoms are present on two adjacent carbon atoms. In spite of the fact that these are terminal, but they are just two. Since they are just two, it falls in the category of weak dihalides. So poly आपका start, terminal आपका start कहाँ से होता है? जहाँ आपके 3 carbon atoms होंगे. It starts with tri. You can go on with tri, tetra, penta, etc. Right? This is the classification of dihalogen derivatives. We'll continue.